request our chief guest, Shri Ram Madhav, to please come on the dais. And our chair for today's event, Ambassador Bambawale. I am Abhay Vaidya, Director, Pune International Center. I welcome all of you to this discussion on Partitioned Freedom, the latest book authored by the senior RSS and BJP leader Shri Ram Madhav. Our chief guest today has come specially for this event, and we are indeed grateful to you, sir, for your presence here today. I am also happy to welcome the chair for today's event, Ambassador Gautam Bambawale, our trustee and the former High Commissioner to China, Bhutan, former Ambassador to China, Bhutan and High Commissioner to Pakistan. Friends, Pune International Center is an independent policy research think tank now in its 12th year. PIC works in the areas of national security, environment, education and climate change, social innovation, science, technology, innovation and national growth, and economic reforms and urbanization. PIC seeks to foster the values enshrined in the Indian Constitution and the UN Charter. This think tank provides a forum for liberal intellectuals, promotes an environment for free and fair public debates, and promotes the arts and culture. PIC also lays emphasis on working with the younger generation to promote innovative, inclusive, and progressive thinking in all fields of public life. In the words of our founder president, Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar, which echo the spirit of all our members, PIC is a Vichar Manthan Kendra, a think tank with a churning of ideas and action. One of our activities is to conduct book discussions month after month, and this event is one of them. Partitioned Freedom by Dr. Ram Madhav is indeed a thought-provoking book in the 75th year of our independence. It presents an analysis of the twists and turns of our freedom struggle, the deliberate divide and rule policy of the British colonial power, and the developments that led to the tragic partition of India. It discusses the politics of Jinnah, Gandhi, Muslim League, the Congress, and of course the British, all of which shaped our history. We need to read this book and decide for ourselves where we agree and disagree with the author. Sir, I found it very interesting that in the very last para, you say that Gandhiji was perhaps ahead of his time. And in the words of Mahatma Gandhi's Guru Gopal Krishna Gokhale, you quote, Gandhi was indomitable, made of the stuff of which great heroes and martyrs are made, immortal, a more exalted spirit has never moved on this earth. A brief background of our speaker. Shri Ram Madhav hails from Andhra Pradesh, where he studied electrical engineering. He did his post-graduation in political science from the University of Mysore. He was associated with the RSS since his teenage years and went on to become a member of the National Executive of the RSS. He was also the National General Secretary of the BJP, and he is a founding member of the India Foundation. Shri Madhav is a prolific columnist, and today's Indian Express has his essay, A Response to Tawang. His previous books include Uneasy Neighbors, India and China after 50 years of the war, and The Hindutva Paradigm. The chair for today's event, Ambassador Gautam Bambawale, is a trustee of PIC and a former ambassador of China, Bhutan, and former High Commissioner to Pakistan. He is also a prolific columnist and is a co-author of PIC's first book, Rising to the China Challenge, which we will present to Shri Madhav at the end of this event. I would like to begin this program by requesting Shri Madhav and Ambassador Bambawale to please release this book in Pune. wanted to have copies here for sale, but the books are yet to arrive in the bookshops in Pune. So please look out for them when they arrive. I would like to mention that this session has a Q&A, and I would now like to hand the floor over to Ambassador Bamba.
Thank you very much, Abhay, and thanks to all of you for coming out for our program today. Let me start by recalling that my association with Dr. Ram Madhav goes back many years. In fact, it predates 2014. Dr. Madhav is a great scholar, as all of you know, but one of the topics that he focuses on and researches is also China. And when I was handling China, when I was dealing with China from the Ministry of External Affairs in Delhi in South Block, and this was in the years from 2009 to 2013, Dr. Ram Madhav would often ask to come and see me. And I remember at that time telling him that my door is always open for anyone and everyone. And he would take advantage of that, and we would spend quite a long time talking about China. So my association and my interaction with him goes back, as I said, much before 2014, and I think all of you will understand why I say that. I also recently told him that we have this think tank, Pune International Center in Pune, and here too we are open to ideas from all parts of the country, from all shades of opinion, etc. And that's why we felt that it was very important to invite Dr. Ram Madhav here and to release his new book, his latest book, Partitioned Freedom. He's of course a very prolific writer. He has many other books to his credit, but tonight we're going to be talking about Partitioned Freedom. Let me start by inviting Dr. Ram Madhav to spend some time talking about the book, and then we'll develop it into a question and answer session. I don't want to ask him too many questions. I will ask him one or two, and they might be a bit difficult questions, Dr. Ram Madhav, but you're used to handling that. But I'll try to include our audience, which is always in Pune International Center, very learned, they know the subject well, and they will ask much more difficult questions than I can. So let me start by inviting Dr. Ram Madhav to spend a little time talking about the book. Please.
Thank you, Ambassador Bambawaleji. Namaskars to Kelkarji, Abhayji, and all others. As the author, naturally I would love to speak more and more about my book. But my publishers will be very unhappy if I tell you everything about the book. So I will only very briefly talk about what is this book, Partitioned Freedom, all about. Firstly, it's not about how India was partitioned. There were so many books narrating those gruesome months of partition, how the partition had affected the lives of millions, which it did. But this book is more about why it happened. What led to that situation, finally ending in India being divided on religious lines. So my book is more about why it happened than about how it happened. It's about, actually it's the story of two partitions. There was one partition of India in 1905. The first attempted partition of India's the then largest province, namely Bengal, which used to have some 80 million people those days, India's largest province, which included today's Bihar, today's Jharkhand, today's Bangladesh, today's Bengal, and today's Assam. That was the British Bengal at that time. It was divided on, of course they said the administrative division, but it was actually Hindu-Muslim divide. East and West Bengal was divided. It was in 1905. In fact, the British Viceroy Lord Curzon, who divided Bengal, wrote to the headquarters in London saying that at the most the Bengali will be unhappy. He will complain. But actually what happened was there was a nationwide revolt against that partition. And it was led by three people, Lala Lajpat Rai from here, from Maharashtra, Balagangadhar Tilak from here, Maharashtra, Lala Lajpat Rai from Bengal, and Bipin Chandra Pal from Calcutta. It's called Lal Bal Pal Trio. We read in history about Vande Mataram movement. This Vande Mataram movement was a movement launched nationwide against the partition of one province, remember. And that movement was so effective, so powerful, that in 6 years, King George V, the then emperor, had to rush to India in 1911 and announce the annulment of that partition. Partition of one province on religious lines was opposed by the whole country, and that partition, the British were forced to annul it, cancel it. Forward by 35 years, fast forward by 35 years, the whole country was being divided. East, West, both sides country was being divided. Why did the whole country not stand up? Why did we not prevent it? So my book discusses that fateful 3 decades. What happened in those 3 decades that had finally led to people resigning to the partition. Okay, chalo, let's accept it. So it's a story about 2 partitions. It's also a story about 2 leaders. They are not equals. When we talk about 2 leaders, it's not necessary that we only talk about equals. In this case, they are not 2 equals. One was Mahatma Gandhi, the other was Muhammad Ali Jinnah. My book talks about these 2 leaders who were the prime players in this whole 35-year history. Both came from same state, same region called Kathiawad. Both were lawyers. Both were foreign bred, got their graduation degrees from London and elsewhere. Both came back. Both started working in Congress only. Jinnah first joined Congress. Gandhi joined much later. These 2 leaders, although came from the same geographical, regional backgrounds, they could not get along in Congress. Finally, Jinnah left Congress in 1920, and the later part of next 25 years was history. He became the leader of Muslim League, and he was the one who got India finally partitioned. Gandhi came much later than Jinnah. When Gandhi came, Jinnah was in the avatar of a nationalist. He was not a partitionist at all. In fact, Jinnah was so staunchly against the Muslim League that he would openly question the creation of Muslim League itself, saying that who are you to represent Indian Muslims? I am an Indian Muslim, but I am in Congress. I don't need you. This was Jinnah in 1906. He worked very hard to bring Muslim League into an alliance with Congress. In 1916 at Lucknow, there was the joint conference of Muslim League and Congress. In fact, Lokmanya Tilak was the senior most leader at that time. He was so overjoyed by the prospect of Muslim League joining Congress, meaning Hindus and Muslims coming together to fight for independence, that he declared at that time that luck now at Lucknow. If you split the word Lucknow into 2 words, luck and now, आज हमको luck मिल गया है. क्यों? Muslim League has joined. That whole thing was engineered by Jinnah. Jinnah was the president of Muslim League. He brought Muslim League into alliance with Congress. But 4 years later, it was in 1915 that Gandhi entered the scene. Unfortunately, they both could not get along. In fact, in 1915 itself, a very interesting incident happens. When Gandhi came back to India from South Africa, the Gujarati Samaj in Mumbai, in Bombay those days, organizes a felicitation for Gandhi. That felicitation was to be chaired by Jinnah. because Jinnah also being a Gujarati and a very, very respected and prominent Gujarati those days, so he was called to chair. Gandhi was thrilled. In fact, Gandhi records that I was so overjoyed by the prospect of a Gujarati Muslim chairing my session. Gandhi had this always in his mind, that Muslims should come with me. They will come. They came with me in South Africa. They will come with me in India also. So when Jinnah was chairing the session, it was really a happy occasion for Gandhi. But what happened in that meeting was when Jinnah rose to speak, he started speaking in English. Jinnah was an Englishman by everything. He was an Indian only by an accident. So Jinnah started speaking in English. Gandhi stops him. Gandhi says, why are you speaking in English? Speak in Hindi or in our mother tongue. He said, Gujarati Samaj, speak in Gujarati. Jinnah was a very proud character. He did not take it lightly. Although he did not listen to Gandhi, he continued his speech in English. But the first seeds of division between the two Gujaratis happened then, 1915, and it went growing. In 1920, Jinnah resigns from Congress, saying that Gandhi is going to take this Congress to the doom. He is going to destroy Congress. I won't work under him. I will go my way. He went his way, then he started Muslim League. The nationalist Jinnah became completely a partitionist Jinnah by 1935, and in 1947 he achieved what he wanted, partition of India. Both journeys were also very different. Gandhi started by believing that without Muslim League we can't secure freedom. There he was with Jinnah. He worked very hard to keep Muslim League with Congress, paid very heavy price. My book discusses the price that we paid to keep League with Congress, assuming that League is Muslims in India. In fact, Congress itself had so many Muslims in its own ranks. Maulana Azad was there, many others were there. In fact, when Congress Muslim leader writes a letter to Gandhi in 1942, he complains to Gandhi that you are a Gujarati Pakshpati. You have Gujarati favoritism, that's why you are promoting this fellow Jinnah. We are in Congress, we are Muslims, you don't listen to us. But you are promoting this fellow who is against Congress, who is wanting partition, you are patronizing him. So somehow Gandhi had it that Muslim League should come, otherwise no freedom. This is where Gandhi started his journey. But in 1940, when Pakistan demand was made by Muslim League, Gandhi realized that no, this should not be the priority, because it's not the question of pleasing Muslim League. I should only work for keeping India united. So last 7 years of Gandhi were dedicated to keeping India united. In fact, in the end, when partition was announced, independence also was announced. So everybody come to Gandhi and congratulate him. One fellow comes and congratulates him. When Gandhi was coming down the dais, he congratulates Gandhi, saying, sir, finally, through our Ahimsa movement, we secured freedom. We won independence. We defeated the British. Gandhi's reply was, yes, you all defeated the British, but you also defeated your own general, meaning Gandhi. I am also defeated today. Because I wanted united India, what I got was a partitioned India. Jinnah started as a nationalist, opposed Muslim League, but ended up as a partitionist. The journey of these two leaders is what my book is. And finally, it's about two lessons. One is, we don't want country to be partitioned once again. So what all happened in those years that had resulted in partition, we should learn necessary lessons from it. There cannot be any price which is small or big that is required to be offered to keep country united. So when you talk about Kashmir or other areas, remember, country's integrity is paramount. That's one important lesson that we should learn. But the last most important lesson that we should learn, here I end, is partition of India is not just the partition of territory, it is partition of hearts. Today when we talk about Akhand Bharat, we talk about the territory. What about the hearts? Uniting hearts is also equally important as uniting the lands. that lesson is also important, because partition happened not merely because we wanted countries' geography to be divided. In fact, Gandhi's argument used to be, Nehru's and others' argument used to be that, we are just like brothers, we are dividing our territory. Brothers can always divide their property. Gandhi's reply was, yes, brothers divide property, but nobody cuts mother into two pieces and take each piece. Country is mother. Matrubhumi, motherland. So country is to be seen as mother, so we are brothers. So that unity of hearts was missing, that led to partition. So unity of, integrity of the territory, but also unity in the society. These are two important lessons that we have to derive from it. I end here, as I said, it's about two partitions, two leaders, and two lessons. I thank Pune International Center for arranging this opportunity to interact with all of you. Thank you.
Ram Madhavji, let me use my, since I'm in the chair, let me ask you a couple of questions. First of all, I want to say that I read the book because I was going to chair this session. I read the book very carefully, but your presentation this evening was absolutely brilliant. I think it encapsulates, the main messages in this book. And so many congratulations and thank you for putting it so well and so succinctly. I want to take up one of the points which you made in the last part of your talk, and which finds mention at the very start of the book. I think it's in the preface or the foreword, that you're writing this book, that your motivation to write this book was not so much to assign blame for partition on anyone, but to learn lessons for the future. And you mentioned that just now also. So let me ask you, do you think there are any threats to the unity of India today? Kashmir is something that you mentioned. We'd like to hear you talk a little bit about Kashmir, because when you were in the BJP, you were also responsible for that part of India. But we'd like to listen to you about whether there are any threats to the unity of India today, whether there is any possibility of further threat of partitioning of India.
Thank you for your kind words. But as far as the territorial integrity of our country is concerned, I think we have a leadership which is definitely not going to allow any compromise on the question of India's territorial integrity. So every inch of our territory will be secured by using whatever is in the hands of the government. That's the reason why even that one article, namely the Article 370, which was creating a sort of a mental barrier between the people of Jammu and Kashmir and the rest of the country, was done away with. Constitutionally and within the powers of the government, whatever needs to be done, whether it is about Kashmir or about Arunachal border or securing our territory in Ladakh, the government will do its utmost, because the leadership of this country today is in the hands of people who believe sincerely in country's integrity, in the sense securing every inch of this territory. But then integrity, unity, these words also involve the society. So as a society, are we also equally fired by that zeal? Are we also equally inspired by that feeling that no, this country should remain united, both as physical unity but also social unity? That is where society also needs to invest. I will only say why I am saying this invest word, why I am using, is take the case of Kashmir. I did handle that state, and I had a lot of arguments with many friends who used to think that every Kashmiri is an anti-national. If that is the case, then 75 years of India must be seen as a failure. If in 75 years there was not a single Kashmiri who was with India, that means what were we doing for 75 years as an independent nation? But the reality is it's not the case. But what is needed even today is that you cannot simply leave everything on the government alone. Government, whatever it needs to be done, will do. But as a society, we need to work towards creating that sense of unity. What does that entail is, I mean, in a lighter sense, next holidays, next vacation, you should go to Srinagar. Next pilgrimage should be to Vaishno Devi Amarnath. And I jokingly say, next honeymoon should be to Gulmarg. So when I said it, somebody, many people laughed and somebody said, you don't know you're an RSS Pracharak, there is no next honeymoon, there's only one honeymoon. I said, yes, I don't know that. But I don't know there is any rule that there should be one honeymoon. There can be any number of honeymoons for same couple, obviously. You can have any number of honeymoons, go again. Spend time there. Why I'm saying this is, the people over there should feel that warmth of rest of the country. That gap created in the heart should be removed. Some mischievous fellows are there, they will be taken care of by the government and the agencies. But the ordinary Kashmiri or ordinary person in Jammu and Kashmir should feel a lot of happiness in being a part of this great country. Like, somebody in Tamil Nadu feels, somebody in Maharashtra feels, somebody in Jammu and Kashmir should feel. You may say that, why doesn't he feel because he is pro-Pakistan? You may say that. But then there will be forces that create that kind of an atmosphere. We have to defeat those forces. That atmosphere you will see even probably in some places in Maoist areas. They may say that, no, we are separate. Will you agree? No, you will go and convince them, no, you are not separate. So that investment, that effort, we all have to make so that this integration becomes final. Once we achieve that, okay, the larger goal is there, that whatever happened, after 47 at least, POK belonged to us. But that was occupied by Pakistan illegally. That needs to be freed. Those agendas will remain. How to achieve that will happen. Sabka number aayega, jokingly say. But today's probably focus should be how society also takes it up. How we also make it a point to create the greater social cohesion. That's very important.
Thank you very much. One more question and then I'm going to come to all of you. So please be ready with your questions and ask any kind of question to Dr. Ram Madhav. He's used to handling sensitive questions, difficult questions. One of the things, Ram Madhav ji, is that, in order to make India stronger, we need to be growing fast at 7 or 8% GDP growth over the next 20, maybe even 25 years. And this government, other governments have all focused on the growth of India's economy, on making sure that all Indians benefit from the growth of our economy. But in your views, and I'm going slightly away from the book, but in order to ensure the unity and of India, we need to have higher standards of living for our people. How, what in your views, how should we achieve this? How can we achieve this over the next 20-25 years so that India becomes not just the third largest economy in the world, but even beyond that?
It works both ways, I feel. Like you need a united and peaceful nation for you to economically grow also. Countries that are socially in upheaval all the time will never succeed economically. Even for India to have great economic success, India has to create a great social cohesion. Next 10 years, you said 20 to 25 years, I feel that the next 10 years is the opportunity, economic opportunity that is there before India. So next 10 years, if we single-mindedly focus on building a strong economy for our country, like how in 1980s, Deng Xiaoping did to China. For 10 years, he focused only on economy. He said, let us wait about all, even to the extent of allowing certain freedoms, which finally he had to take back. He even went to the extent of having a limited democracy in China. Why? Because he felt that that's the only way for me to reassure the rest of the world to bring investments, bring money, create prosperity in my country. Today China is enjoying great economic progress and prosperity. The seeds were sown by Deng in first 10 years of 1980s. By 1998, they were there before the WTO or World Bank and all those institutions, international institutions seeking membership. India's 10-year period is now. This opportunity we have to use. For that, of course, unity is required. Once you economically prosper, then of course you will be having a better standard of living for all the citizens and less unrest. That's also equally true. But these two should go hand in hand. The amount of social discard that sometimes we see in our society, I fear, is it good for our country if you want to build a strong economy? Will people come? Will they really trust in India? Today, luckily, in the world, there is a good opinion about India. So that good opinion should be made use of so that economically we enrich our nation, our people. And I also fully agree with you that it's not just about GDP figures alone. If UK fails, we become number 4. It's not that we succeed. That's what is also happening nowadays. Today we are at 3 trillion. Germany is at 4.5 trillion. And what is Germany's population? 80 billion. We are 1.3 billion. Compare, we should be somewhere beyond 20 trillion. We need to have that kind of a projection. Number 5 to 4, 4 to 3 may happen for various reasons. That is gross GDP. But per capita GDP, हम तो 150 पर है. We are 3 trillion into 1.4 billion people. So India needs to create the grassroots prosperity also. That is what Prime Minister says when he talks about Atmanirbhar Bharat, creating grassroots prosperity. Based on that, your GDP should grow. You become number 5, number 4, number 3. So that's why probably by 2027 we should be somewhere around 8 trillion, and by 2030 we should be able to cross 10 trillion. Because by then other countries are going to go much farther. But one projection, it may or may not be the reality, but one projection is, but by 2050, China will be of course the number 1 economy with 55 to 58 trillion. And India will be the second economy with 40 to 45 trillion. And third will be US with around 35 trillion. One projection. But that depends on many factors. The stability, the growth rate that you talked about, 8% growth rate. You need to register. Singapore has become a very big, rich country. 18 years, they never came below 10% growth rate. For 18 years. हम तो एक साल 9 में जाएंगे, दूसरे साल में 5 में आ जाएंगे. Growth has to be there, continuous growth. So this is a very, of course, मैं विजय कलका साहब के सामने मुझे ये बोलना है तो हास्यास्पद है, but कह रहा हूँ कि unity and economy both go hand in hand.
One small question on a humorous side. While writing this book, you have made a great study of the Congress party before freedom of India, before independence of India. Will there be another book, maybe later this year or maybe next year, of the Congress party from 1947 to 2022?
No, first of all, luckily, before 1947, there was no Congress party. There was only Congress. It was a platform for everybody. That's why a Jinnah also could work in it, a Hedgewar also could work in it. Some had differences. Savarkar had differences right from the beginning. He stayed away. He never got into that movement. But then Ambedkar worked in it. Parted ways later. Ambedkar worked with it. I'm sorry, I should not say worked in it. He worked with it. He was having number of issues with Congress, especially with Gandhi. Still he worked with them. He was there in the government. He had his own politics. The Congress pre-independence was only a platform where all those who wanted India to become independent could join. In fact, that's the reason why 3 days before his death, unfortunate murder that happened, Gandhi dictates a resolution on 27th January 1948. This resolution was to be taken up in the Congress session in February that year, and probably passed or not passed, we don't know. It was to be taken up. The resolution was that although India was partitioned, we secured independence as per the desires of millions of our people, or crores of our people. But, we secured political freedom. The word used was political freedom. We have become politically free. This is the word Gandhi. Gandhi did not say we have become independent. We have become politically free. Then he adds that, people living in 5 lakh villages in the country away from cities, they are yet to secure social, economic and moral independence. There was no social independence. There was a lot of social issues. There was no economic independence. India was 80% poor. Literacy was 17% at the time of independence. So the social, moral and economic independence was not there. So Gandhi's suggestion was that you need to launch another movement for achieving that, then only the total independence will come. Real freedom will come. For that reason and for many other reasons, I don't talk about other reasons, although Gandhi mentions them, he gives a suggestion that Congress should disband itself as a political party, should not take the avatar of a political party. It should become something like a Lok Sevak Sangh and work for the achievement of these three freedoms. Another matter, Gandhi died after 3 days, so that resolution was never taken up. It is there in the records though, you can read it. In his complete works, you will find that resolution. So Gandhi never wanted Congress to become a political party. It's another matter. Present day Gandhis are trying to achieve that, it seems. But Gandhi generally was not in favor. What happened between 47 and today is something that we should definitely ponder seriously. In fact, my book Hindutva Paradigm deals with it a little bit. But yes, one of my forthcoming books in 2024 book, I am going to talk about it.
Good. Let me go to the audience. Please raise your hand. Please introduce yourself. And of course, do we have a microphone which is going around? Will there be a microphone? Yeah, you can use this one. We'll just get a microphone to you, sir. So the gentleman there.
Madhavji, I am Mohammad Hanif Sheikh. I am finance professional, presently practicing lawyer at the Bombay High Court. Excellent presentation. Just before questions, 4 years back, I read Ram Manohar Lohiya's book, Guilty Men of India's Partition. 2 facts I will just state. I have nothing against any community. Ram Manohar Lohia says, when a resolution was put up by Mountbatten for partition of the country, Ram Manohar Lohia and Jai Prakash Narayan, they had decided, they were looking at each other, who was going to oppose the resolution. If Congress leaders were so patriotic, and Mahatma Gandhi had already said that partition would take place only over my dead body, he said, few months back only. Ram Manohar Lohia said, we were just looking at each other, who was going to oppose partition. And again Ram Manohar Lohia says there only, again let me clarify at the outset, I have nothing against any community. Ram Manohar Lohia says, had Congress leadership not been predominantly Brahmin, country wouldn't have been partitioned. One thing. Second, Ram Manohar Lohia says, country who was Congress working committee member along with Jai Prakash Narayan. Ram Manohar Lohia, Gautamji, says, country was not partitioned on Hindu-Muslim basis. Had country been partitioned on Hindu-Muslim basis, area Agra and above would have gone to Pakistan. So Congress leaders said no. When Jinnah said Hindus and Muslims are 2 nations, cannot live together. Congress leaders said no. Hindus and Muslims are 1 nation, can live together. Otherwise, had Congress accepted this principle, not single Muslim on this side, single non-Muslim on that side, area above Agra would have gone. And I'll come back to partition of Bengal. Partition of Bengal was of 1 state only. M.S. Gill, Gautamji must be knowing very well, who was our cabinet secretary, our chief election commissioner and union minister as well in UPA too, I suppose. M.S. Gill Saab said, wrong notion has been spread. Only 2 states were partitioned. Eastern side Bengal, western side Punjab. And we are saying country was partitioned. And today, Pakistan's population is around 22 crores. Justice Sachar Saab's report I read, Gautamji, Justice Sachar Saab says, what could be Muslim population, not because I am Muslim, these are facts. What could be Muslim population in India? Some people say 14.5%, 15%. Justice Sachar Saab said, my own study, what I have studied, it should be around 20 to 21%. It means every fifth, if we calculate 140 crores, 20% is 28 crores. By no stretch of imagination can be called a minority. No country's population is even 28 crores, even US population is barely 30 crores plus 33 crores. And even European nations, France and all, Germany.
Yeah, I take it.
Yes. So my point is, I agree fully that some people, some organizations saying that there should be Akhand Bharat. Why can't we annul partition? Partition of Bengal could be annulled in 1911. Why can't we annul partition and India, Pakistan, Bangladesh at least? Forget Bangla, Myanmar, Myanmar and Sri Lanka and all that. Why can't these three countries become one country again and India become truly secular, modern, liberal democracy?
Now, since you read Lohia's suggestion was essentially to create a federation. I mean, I hope you complete that book. In that, subsequently he says, let us create a federation. Firstly, Lohia had views. Wait here. No, please, abide here. So, Lohia gave 7 people as responsible for partition. In that, he held Jinnah as the 6th person, although Jinnah should be in the first 2. So, Lohia had his own analysis. Lohia felt that first guilty person should be the British, then it is Congress. Lohia had that view that Brahmin, only Nehru was Brahmin, that too Kashmiri Pandit. Gandhi was not a Brahmin, Patel was not a Brahmin. Gandhi did say that vivisect me before vivisecting this nation. This was in 1940. 1947, when partition was finally accepted by Nehru and Patel and the third person was Kripalani. Kripalani again was not a Brahmin. All three were there when the partition plan was signed. It's called June 3rd plan. When that was signed, then Gandhi told the Congress that now that our leaders have agreed for partition, let us go for it. But may I tell you something very interesting? Gandhi was in Nokhali. Nehru goes to meet him. Gandhi tells Nehru, this was 1946 November, he tells Nehru, don't take any decisions without discussing with me, please. I mean, he requests, he doesn't demand, because he was nobody in Congress at that time, and Congress leadership stopped listening to Gandhi in 1945 itself. Gandhi requests. Nehru says, absolutely, major decisions will be taken after consulting with you. But this decision of signing on June 3rd plan was not disclosed to Gandhi. Gandhi was so upset that Gandhi goes to Mountbatten in the second week of June and gives a very crazy proposal. He says, please tell Jinnah to take the whole country. Don't partition India. Mountbatten was taken aback. Mountbatten tells Gandhi, I'm not going to ask you how Nehru will react to this, because I know what Nehru will say. But I want to ask you how Jinnah will react. Gandhi remains silent for a moment, and then Gandhi says, yeah, I know. Jinnah will say, this is wily Gandhi at his best. Gandhi is so mischievous. He will first say, tell me, you take the whole country. And he will first of all throw you guys out, the British. Then he will throw me out. I won't have anybody to save me. So first give me my Pakistan. So, Lohia's recommendations apart, at that time there were certain situations. You are right. I mean, what is the population of Muslims in India? We have to go by the census. Census has certain figures. Otherwise, somebody may say 38 crores, somebody may claim 28 crores. There is a census data, we go by that. Whatever it is, the fact is, that is precisely the point. Partition was on the basis of religion. This was Jinnah's thesis was, Hindus and Muslims cannot live together because they are not one nation. But when partition happened, there were 80 million Muslims in India, 8 crore Muslims in India. Only 4.5 crores went into what became Pakistan, East and West Pakistan. By the way, it's a country's partition because Jinnah's thesis was Hindus and Muslims are not one nation, we have to be two nations. So only 4.5 went, 3.5 crores remained in India. And who remained in India, very interestingly? Those who voted for Muslim League remained in India. Those who did not vote for Muslim League became Pakistan. How illogical this whole exercise had been. Let me just give you one piece of information and then we can carry on with other questions. When this whole thing happened, there was serious resentment within Congress. When they were told that Nehru, Patel and Kriplani were present and Nehru signed on the partition papers on June 3rd. It was that Nehru who declared that partition was a fantastic nonsense. He called partition a fantastic nonsense. They are पागलों की बात है. तो खुद साइन किया. तो पागल कौन होता है? But then Congress leaders were very annoyed, very angry. They were ready to pounce on these leaders. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who was the supreme leader of what is today Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. In those days it used to be called as NWFP, Northwest Frontier Province. He was the supreme leader, he used to be called Frontier Gandhi. He came, he started crying on the dais, sobbing. He said, who will trust you guys, you Congress leaders anymore? We trusted, we Khyber Pakhtunkhwa people trusted you fully. We supported you, we opposed Jinnah. Now, without even talking to us, you gave away our province also to Pakistan. We wanted to be in India. You made us part of Pakistan without talking to us. He tells, in fact, he wrote his autobiography, he accuses Congress of deceiving the Muslims of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And Gandhi had to get up and hold him and take him away from the mic because he was sobbing literally. So, that was the kind of scenario it was there. But then we agreed. Why we did it? Gandhi told Nehru that you should discuss with me. He was not considered. Gandhi sends a message to Nehru and Patel that, I was so disappointed you did not tell me that you were going to sign on this paper. Can you come and explain why you did this? Nehru said, I don't have time to come to you. Patel goes. Patel says, you see Gandhiji, we discussed it in our party forum. After discussing in the party forum, we took the decision. We did not feel the need of consulting you. So much happened. In 1956, in one interview, Nehru confesses. Nehru says, we became tired of this fellow Jinnah, his antics. We thought we cannot no longer tolerate this fellow. So we thought, let it be a solution, let him take his piece. There is no other solution. The leaders became tired, the leaders became old. Can you handle countries like that? Can simply because you cannot tolerate one leader, you give away part of your territory? But that was the mindset working. Mountbatten asks, are you serious? You're ready to sign? Nehru tells Mountbatten, yeah, because I know these fellows will come back. It was taken so lightly that we are partitioning India, but I am sure they will come back. They did not come back, they came back at you. Partition, next moment you had Kashmir occupied. It was all done in such a haste, in such a haphazard manner. It's a big discussion, I can't go into all those. So, please remember that there were different scenarios also in that situation, but today, again to think that, overnight we should erase the borders. Maybe one day Pakistan decides that way. People of Pakistan decide that no, we should become part of India, we should all be happy. But right now, keep the country that is in your hand secured, united. Its integrity be upheld. Nobody should be there in this country who thinks bad of this country. That kind of country we have to build. That's one important lesson that we should learn.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I see a lot of hands up. So let me just request that, yes, this is a very fascinating subject, but please, just introduce yourself and ask a direct question. There's a question here. We'll take 2-3 questions. Yeah, we'll start with you, sir, and then come here in front. And then next round we'll come to the back. Yes, please go ahead.
Namaste, Ram Madhavji. My question is based on the interaction and the speech you just gave. So as you mentioned, from 1905 to 1947, you have mentioned some symptoms in your books. So my question is, do you see similar symptoms going around in the current phase as well? And you also spoke about winning hearts. So how do we win hearts which are structured and constantly brainwashed? So these are my couple of questions. Thank you.
One more question from here.
Namaskar, Madhavji, Amit Pranspe. Looks like a great book. Look forward to reading it soon. Two quick questions. One is you mentioned the 1920 change, and I think it's very clear that happened because in 1920, I think Lokmanya Tilak died, and I think that is one person. Since we are here in Pune, I like to bring it up all the time. We don't discuss his role as much. How much either he had tried for the unity. You mentioned about the Lucknow Pact and all the things that he did. So would like to hear your views on his idea. I know it is 25, 27 years before 1947 still. And the second quick question is, all of us have ideas, but would like your take on how big were the British or the British role in ensuring this partition. We talk about a lot of geopolitical theories of how earlier Churchill and then later the deep state in UK and US didn't want to see a big united India and all of that. I mean, there are all of these kind of theories. So were they neutral? Were they aggressively pushing for partition or what?
Okay. As far as the mindset question is concerned, you must remember that since it also relates to Amitji's point also, that Savarkar wrote that famous book, The First War of Independence, in 1907 from abroad when he was in London. You know, he holds 1857, that War of Independence, as an example of India's unity. Hindus and Muslims coming together against the British aggressor. He says this is such a wonderful thing. He says that this Bahadur Shah, who is ruling the last Mughal emperor, is actually the emperor of both Hindus and Muslims. Everybody together made him the emperor. So he holds that as a shining example of the country's unity. Same, I told you, Jinnah in 1906 challenges the creation of Muslim League on the principle that Muslims should have its own party. He said, no need, we are all one people. This was Jinnah also. And Lokmanya Tilak continuously worked for, the frontline leadership of Vande Mataram movement or movement against partition of Bengal was Lokmanya Tilak. So we had a leadership that firmly believed in we being one people. What happened between 15, 16 also I consider as the turning point, this Lucknow, when we started believing that Muslim League is the representative of the Muslims. That was the turning point. From there, we started giving compromises after compromises. That had led to separatism. In fact, Khilafat was the first major and worst compromise that Congress had made. Gandhiji, with all due respect, became the president of Khilafat movement first. 1919, Gandhiji becomes the president of Khilafat movement. Then, of course, in 1920, he becomes the leader of Congress. So, Khilafat, then we started compromising on everything. That had led to separatism growing in sections of Muslim society, which was exploited by Jinnah. But I tell you something very interesting. My book gives a lot of details about it. You please go through it. In 1937, when first provincial elections were held, there were 4 provinces which had Muslim majority. Naturally, all 4 should have elected Muslim League. Do you know? All 4 rejected Muslim League. So much so, Jinnah himself wrote that I cannot enter Punjab. Those in Punjab means total Punjab. He was not even allowed to enter Punjab. He himself admits. Muhammad Iqbal gives him a suggestion. You know why you are not succeeding in creating that separate Muslim identity? Because Muslims do not see you as one among them. They see you as a Angreji Sahab. Change your attire, change your language. 1937 he starts wearing Sherwani. Sherwani he only started wearing in 37. So he assiduously built that separatist mindset. in the Muslim. So that is why you have to be careful. Who are those guys who are creating the separatist mindset in our society, who are creating the separatist politics in every state, including Maharashtra, Hyderabad, everywhere. If you don't tackle those forces firmly, yeah, that mindset will come back. But then you can't blame the entire society. That's what I think. Those 20 years, the mistakes that we committed had led to creation of that community, that one mindset. But then I'm also saying there's another group which insisted that Jinnah was wrong. Don't compromise with such forces, then that mindset will grow. That's why sometimes you have to be harsh. We took a very harsh decision in Kashmir. But it is required. But will you only always take danda in your hand? And also, danda where required, but where it is dialogue, where it is communication, that is also required. That we need to think carefully, because after all, it's a big society, as you rightly said, 20 crores or 28 crores, it's no longer a minority. We have to live together. What are those living together rules? How do we impose those rules? Some through danda, but some through dialogue, some through conversation. It has to happen both ways. So coming to your interesting question, as I said, the first part I think I have answered. Tilak always stood for, of course, obviously unity, but what happened in, you referred to Tilak's absence from Congress. In fact, Tilak's absence began in 1919. That was the most unfortunate thing. 1919, he went away to London to fight that case against Valentin Chirol, that defamation case. He was away for 6 to 8 months. That was the time when this very, India's independence movement had changed forever because of the Khilafat movement. That Khilafat decision was taken in Tilak's absence. Had Tilak been there, Anbicent was opposed to it. Ambedkar was opposed to it. Jinnah was opposed to it. Jinnah, when he resigned, he said, you are leading Congress, tells Gandhi that you are leading Congress on a suicidal path by supporting Khilafat. So, that was the turning point in our freedom movement. But Tilak was absent, unfortunately. Had Tilak been there, history has no ifs and buts. And if it had not happened, history has no hypothesis. History is history, it's past. But yes, that's one thing. But before that, what happened was, Gokhale passed away. 15 Gokhale died. Gandhi entered, Gokhale died. Ranade was not there. Tilak went away. Who were left were Anbicent, Madan Mohan Malaviya, leaders like that, who did not have that kind of a great control over the Congress organization. Gandhi walked in. So, certain historical situations had led to certain big blunders. One blunder was Khilafat movement in 1919 and 20. Next blunder was leaving Vande Mataram song in 1923. Then national flag compromise. Then language compromise. And Congress passes a resolution not to use Hindi. Instead we use Hindustani. Hindustani is Hindi Urdu mix. Badshah Ram, Begum Sita, Maulvi Vasistha. Books were written. Just to please Muslim League. No Muslim in Congress was demanding it. Muslim League was demanding it. These compromises had led to that situation. So, coming to your point, yes, that absence of certain leadership had led to certain big blunders being committed without opposition. That had gradually led to this situation. Role of British, obviously British were colonizers. Why did they divide Bengal? Only to weaken nationalist movement. 1905, Calcutta was the capital, we all know, until 1911, Calcutta was the capital. Calcutta was also the epicenter of India's nationalist movement. So they wanted the movement to be weakened, so they divided it into Hindu Bengal and Muslim Bengal. In fact, their officer goes to Dhaka to tell the people of Dhaka that we are dividing so that you can have your own independent life here. This is what tells Muslims British. So British had that divide and rule policy, but their whole objective was just to perpetuate their rule. That colonizer will do. But whether they wanted partition, see, Attlee, when he sent Mountbatten, he gave him a couple of instructions. The first instruction was, try and keep that country as one. Now this was the instruction. 2, if you have to partition it, partition it in a most just manner. Don't do it in unjust manner. Do it to the extent possible in a very honest way. Whatever is possible, do it. Third, he says, in any case, get out of that mess. Third one. So, for getting out of that mess, the deadline was 48 April. 48 April was the getting out period. But Mountbatten decided to go back early, and you know how much time was given to Radcliffe to draw the boundaries? 2 weeks. That was the reason why such a massacre happened. In 2 weeks, how can you draw boundaries? And Radcliffe, who was assigned that responsibility, never came to India before that. He had no idea what India was all about. So many such things happened. British were complicit to that extent. But then British gave full opportunity to all sides. He gave full opportunity to Congress. Had Congress said, no, we won't agree for partition, Jinnah died in 1948. Had they waited for one more year, probably history would have been different. But then history doesn't have ifs and buts. You did it.
There are a few hands which are up at the back, and we are running out of time because Ram Madhav ji has to then catch a flight and move on to Bangalore later tonight. So let's have a few questions from the back there. Yes, sir, your hand is up, and the gentleman in the red T-shirt.
Namaskar, Madhav ji. Good evening. Myself, Rohan Dixit. I'm an IT engineer. So my question is, why role of Azad Hind Sena that is found by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose is being sidelined or not being so much talked about in a role in a parts like in independence of India? Thank you.
Good evening, Ambassador. Good evening, Ram Madhav ji. This is Khalid Beg. I'm an entrepreneur and I run a YouTube channel, India This Week by Amna and Khalid, which talks about current affairs, and we have some very prominent people who speak across the ideological spectrum. My question to Dr. Ram Madhav is that we spoke about a mindset. At the end of the day, Pakistan is a mindset, right? I mean, it's not just a geographical entity, but it's a mindset based on the very annihilation of the idea of India, on the existence. And it's happening, it happens for the last 75 years, it keeps on happening. And that kind of mindset is also seen in population here. You know, there are sections, mischievous elements here. And now that we're trying to get into the, trillion-dollar economy and all that, we see a lot of communist ideologues and Islamist ideologues with that mindset who use the very democracy of India to exploit that. Now, I know this is a very tricky situation for the Indian state because regardless of what we are, regardless of being the most diverse country on the face of the planet, having all the 8 major world religions, if we go after these ideologues, we will be accused of being a fascist state. But these are the same ideologues in the media as a lobby who give support, and then we see situations like the anti-CA riots, they give support to all the terror elements as well. How are we going to manage this? Because if we take legal action, we'll be called a fascist state, which we're called anyways.
Good.
And at the same time, how do we ensure that rate goes? But the power also is of those elements. So how do we go about that? Thank you.
Firstly, as far as Azad Hind Fauj was concerned, I give you a very interesting piece of information. In 1946, when the British finally decided to give independence to India, this bill was brought before the British Parliament sometime in September 1946. Churchill was the opposition leader. Churchill very vociferously opposes this. He says, Churchill's argument was, Indians were incapable of having independence. They are, wretched people. They can't run their country. They will split into 100 pieces. So don't give them independence. He was opposed to it. So he says, had I been there, I would never have allowed this independence. Then Attlee rises as Prime Minister to give the reasons for why he is deciding to give independence. First reason he says that you see in India today, our own, British used to have 1 lakh army in India. Of the 1 lakh, hardly a few thousands were British soldiers. The rest all were Indians. So he tells that these Indian soldiers in British Royal Army are no longer loyal to us. Because the Navy was revolting, Royal Indian Navy was revolting. Royal Indian Army in Pune revolted in 1946. There was a cantonment here, British cantonment, they revolted. So they were no longer loyal to us. This One first reason he said. Second reason he said, so that means if I still want to rule over India, I have to send some 100,000 or 200,000 British soldiers from Britain to India. Then only I can control that country. Number three, he then says this revolutionary fervor in India is too serious. It's not easy to control it. And then finally he says, we are after Second World War, our army is no longer willing to go back to another battlefield. Having beaten black and blue in Second World War, they won the war, they lost the empire, this is how it is described. So they are not ready to go back to another battlefield. So we have to get out of that country, you can't manage, you can't run that country. So the point I'm trying to say is, not to demean the independence movement, but he did not talk about Congress movement. He talked about this revolt in army and all. How did that revolt come about? It was because of Azad Hind Fauj. That revolt was triggered by the Red Fort trials of 11 Azad Hind Fauj commanders. And I must tell you, to give credit to everybody, due credit, even Congress leadership of that time was not opposed to Azad Hind Fauj. Some people try to project it that way. My knowledge says no. Why? Because Congress passes a resolution to appoint 10 senior most Congress leaders as judges, as advocates for Azad Hind Fauj. Nehru, who hung up his lawyer's coat in 1922, pulls it out in 1945 to argue for Azad Hind Fauj. So Azad Hind Fauj was a big inspiration for the people in 1945. You are right, but 47 ke baad, in independent India, that history was not highlighted before the people. The contributions made by Azad Hind Fauj, the first, national anthem was sung in 1944 in Singapore. India became independent. India had a national anthem, and India's national flag was hoisted at Moirang in Manipur in 1944. So that history was suppressed. So was the history of many others. Like, even today, some leaders talk very insulting way about Savarkar, forgetting his contribution. Revolutionary, their contribution. So many contributions were suppressed after independence. Of course, fortunately, all that is now seeing the light. It's all coming out because of the efforts of course, the government, but also of the efforts of many nationalist people in the country. As far as this mindset and ideologues question is concerned, I already answered that. This mindset is the danger. Those who are championing it need to be tackled sternly. Now, precisely for that fear that you referred to, that how people will blame me, out of that fear, Gandhi went on appeasing Muslim League. He did not do that with Ambedkar. With Ambedkar, he was very rigid. He went on a 21-day fast. On that question of separate electorates to Dalits, scheduled castes, Gandhi said, no, I won't agree. He went on 21-day fast. Why did he not go on 21-day fast against Muslim electorates? Because there he felt, mujhe to ye leadership ko khush rakhna hai. Otherwise, Muslim League may go away. Muslim League may say that, no, I won't work with you. That mistake we should not commit. These forces, if they are there, they need to be tackled sternly. They may say, they may call you fascist. Let them call. Throughout, Jinnah used to call Gandhi a Hindu supremacist. Today those who call us Hindu supremacists, RSS, BJP, they must remember that this great credit was given to Gandhi first. Throughout, Jinnah used to say he is a Hindu supremacist, he will create a Hindu India. Like how today people say about Modi and others. So, predecessor was Gandhiji. So people may tell you 10 things. I talked about Churchill. How much abuse Churchill had to endure in 1940s when he took certain decisions in Britain. But leaders have to be formed. So that point about those who have certain mindset, how do you tackle them? Tackle them firmly. But when I say firmly, who? The state, the government. Not you and me. No. I go out and catch hold of a person and say that I will beat you up. No. There is a law and order system. there is a government, there is a mechanism that has to do its job. Rest, you have the greatest weapon called democracy. Influence public opinion against those forces. Do it in a manner that those forces are isolated and all other countrymen, irrespective of religion, caste and everything, stand united. But in our campaign, if we go and create those same fault lines, you know who will be happy in his grave? Jinnah. Well, that's what he was saying, no? He was saying that we are not one society, we are two separate societies. 75 years after independence, if we say that, then Jinnah will be happy. Now, this is what I was saying right from the beginning. So, that mistake we should not commit. We should change the mindset. Where state has to do its job, it will do. If they have to go to jail, they will go to jail. And India's judiciary is independent. If any decision of the government is wrong, the judiciary will address it. Have faith in judiciary. But as a society, let us not allow that mindset to grow. There, democracy is the greatest security for us. So democracy can never be compromised. India has to remain a democracy and a clear democracy, no compromise on that. But tackle with these forces by learning lessons from the 30-year history of our partition. Thank you very much.
The program says I should give some concluding remarks, but I think I'm going to not give any concluding remarks. You have heard from the author directly, you have heard Ram Madhav ji's views. All of us know that he has, he's a tall leader in India. So I'm going to just hand it back. We've already exceeded our time. I'm going to hand it back to our director, Abhay Vaidya, for his final and vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, sir. We have a small gift for Dr. Ram Madhav. Kiran, could you please come with the book?
I read his book, so I'm going to force him to read mine.
So, sir, I shall now request Ambassador Bambawale to present you with PIC's first book, Rising to the China Challenge. This book has been co-authored by Dr. Mashelkar, Dr. Kelkar, Dr. Ajit Ranade, Professor Ajay Shah, Dr. Ganesh Natarajan, and Ambassador Bambawale. And this was written. This project started as a policy paper after the Galwan clashes took place on how should India respond to China, and the project started becoming bigger and bigger, and it ended up in a book. And sir, the point that you made, that economic growth is the path that India should take, is what this book says. The point that you made and the point that Ambassador Bambawale made. We've had a fascinating animated discussion. The last point that Shri Ram Madhav made, no compromise with Indian democracy. So we endorse that view. India and Indians want social cohesion. We are a multicultural, multi-religious, multi-ethnic country, and we want to preserve this character. We heard in this discussion how the British played politics and how partition happened because of the Hindu-Muslim divide. We don't want to see that divide again, and we want to see a cohesive society, a society where we see social harmony. Sir, we thank you very much for taking the time out for coming to this book discussion. This is the first discussion on your book in Pune, and we look forward to promoting this book through our this video recording, which we will share with our members and with others. With these words, I would like to thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Bambawale, for chairing this event. Thank you to all of you for your questions. And with this, I declare this event as closed.